So we'll wait just a couple minutes just to get our technical difficulties out of the way.
Okay, everyone check in, please.
Are we ready to go?
Could we go ahead? Go ahead and start.
Okay. All right. I'd like to call to order the Butte-Silver Council of Commissioners regular meeting for Wednesday, January 20th, 2021. Could we have a roll call?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, we have 12 present and 0 absent.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Next, we'll move on to the prayer. Commissioner Sorich.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Good to see everybody this evening. Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which will greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right, we'll next move to the approval of the minutes. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. This time I move to approve the minutes that occurred on January 6, 2021 regular meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have anything on the question? Could everybody please vote? And would you please record the vote?
We have, looks like we have one missing. Okay. We have 11 yay and 0 nay at the moment. Okay. Commissioner Anderson, would you give us a high sign or nay?
He's a yay.
All right, that's 12 yay and 0 nay. Thank you. JP, you are muted.
Oh, sorry.
Excuse me, Chief Executive Gallagher, you are muted.
Thanks. Next, we're moving on to items not addressed on the agenda. Do we have anything that's not addressed on the agenda tonight?
I believe there are none.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the Chief Executive's report. There's quite a bit going on within Butte-Silver and within the nation today. And so as we had the transition of power from to the new administration with Joe Biden becoming president of the United States, we had some people participating out on the courthouse steps today. That was peaceful, not protest or demonstration, but just more of support of the new administration. We did not see any problems that were anticipated with some of the transition of the things that were going on. So that was a blessing for us locally, and I think at the state capitol and nationwide. So we wish the president of the United States the best of luck and for the future of our country, as well as everything kind of trickles down and affects us here as well. In Butte-Silver, we had one real big rollout today with the vaccination clinic down at the Civic Center. It went fantastic. I met with Karen Sullivan today. Her workers and department, along with St. James Community Health and the Community Health Center, did a fantastic job of rolling out our very first vaccination clinic, and it went off without a hitch. We had a lot of volunteers. I know the Montana Tech football players and athletes were up there helping out, along with our workers that we have in Butte-Silver. And so I can't thank those volunteers and the people that work down there enough. And we're starting to see light at the end of the tunnel as we're working through the COVID pandemic. So with that, I just want to give kudos to Karen, the Board of Health, St. James, and Community Health, as their work does not go unnoticed. In our office here, there's a lot going on. As I said, our big piece is trying to get out and communicate with everybody, and with the legislative session going on, we've been tracking a lot of bills and testifying. We sent my chief of staff, Jim Cambridge, over to the Capitol as he testified on House Bill 107, where we opposed the revision, where they were looking to have a 2/3 vote to pass any kind of mill levy laws, which could be school mill levies and any kind of special districting and stuff. And so we were very much opposed to that. And I think that the support that we saw was that it was pretty unanimously against this bill. But it has not died, and so we're still following that. We've been tracking House Bill 127, Treasurer's Office, which was property tax. I know that Danette and others are following that. Senate Bill 77, special districting financing. We're just following a lot of these really closely. Tomorrow, I will be testifying along with Chief Operator of the Water Division, Jim Keenan, on House Bill 11, which is funding for grants for Basin Creek Reservoir, which for those of you guys may or may not know, we get 60% of our water there. And if we do not get the repairs done, and without this funding that could help us do these repairs, that's in jeopardy. And then we would have to draw more water from the Big Hole water treatment plant. And so this is really a critical infrastructure grant opportunity, and we are looked favorably on this, but we want to make sure that we represent there as well. And so House Bill 12, historic preservations, we've got a lot of buildings in Butte-Silver that have applied for some of this grant funding. So we're following a lot of these things closely, and so we're spending early mornings and late nights and watching testimony and testifying where we need to, and just kind of following along there. I'm not going to go into a lot of deep detail of other things going on in Butte, but there's a lot of activity in Butte, and we're seeing people investing and buying buildings, and there's a lot of energy happening with that. And so we'll keep you up to date on that. And with that, I'll close out the Chief Executive's report and move on to our next item on the agenda. All right. So moving on, we'll go to public comment on any items on the agenda. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. We will give this a moment for the phones. Anybody can call in, or their call-ins are welcome at 497-5009. I do have one comment to read into the record. We'll just give it a minute. Okay. If we do get a call, Josh will let me know. And in the meantime, I would like to read this letter into the record. This is directed to the Butte-Silver Council of Commissioners. Tonight's meeting, communication 2021-18. This is from R. Edward Bandwarab, 2601 Grand Avenue, Section 2, Consent Agenda Comments. Requesting Council of Commissioners to do whatever is necessary to implement under powers and duties of the Council of Commissioners of the Butte-Silver City County Charter, Clause 3.01, Sub 3C, quote, to employ an attorney for the purposes which the Council of Commissioners deems necessary to represent the interests of the citizens of Butte-Silver in that This clause does not state the city county attorney shall be the legal counsel for the Council of Commissioners. Therefore, I do not believe that it is the intent of the Butte-Silver Charter that the Butte-Silver City County Attorney should be the sole legal counsel for the BSB Council of Commissioners. In my 9 years of regularly observing this council's actions, I have noted on several occasions when, as representatives of the people, this council should have sought outside independent second opinion legal counsel on various issues. I believe that it was the intent of the people when they included and improved the herein before reference clause in the Butte-Silver City County Charter to provide a manner whereby this council could establish a means by which to obtain that legal counsel from the citizens' perspective for itself on initiatives brought before this council. I believe my communication is self-explanatory and is now up to you, the Butte-Silver Council of Commissioners, to do whatever is necessary to implement this clause as intended. Thank you for your consideration of this issue, R. Edward Vanderab. And that concludes all of the comments on items on tonight's agenda. Chief, oh, excuse me, I guess we do have a call. And 1 minute while I get the microphone. Greetings, and could you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Jim Perkins, and my address is 406 Rainier Court, Missoula.
Please, Jim, go ahead and make the comments.
Yes. My name is Jim Perkins. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a lag. I'm understanding now. I had submitted my email last week that was read into the minutes regarding the recent water treatment plant chemical bid, and wanted to make a further comment to the City Council in that regard.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, are you hearing me now?
Yes, Jim, it would also be beneficial if you would turn off the live stream at the moment so that we don't get feedback.
Yes. Sorry about that. Yeah, exactly. In case you missed what I said earlier, again, this is Jim Perkins with the company Thatcher Chemical located in Missoula, Montana. My email last week was read into the council minutes regarding the recent water treatment chemical bid for the city water plant, wastewater plant, and pools. And just wanted to make sure to emphasize the point that after the competitive bid that we were not involved with because of our bid service, and we failed to submit a bid. We had, however, ahead of time submitted pricing as to what we could do. It was later determined after the bid was open that our pricing that we had offered initially would save the city, the county, Butte-Silver County, upwards of $25,000 based on the chemical usage last year at the water and wastewater plants. And I guess I was curious about entertaining any questions.
Well, Jim, I'm sorry, this time is it strictly a comment period? There's no dialogue. We appreciate your comments.
Okay.
Thank you. And it is on the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief Executive Gallagher.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Moving on to section 1, bid openings, public hearings, and or presentations. We do have a public hearing, communication number 21-5, Carrie Coe, Historic Clark Chateau Program Director, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence and authorization to schedule a public hearing for January 20th, 2021 for the purpose of conducting a public hearing concerning amending the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget to allow for increased expenditures of unanticipated revenue in the Archives Clark Chateau budget. So, County Attorney, do we have proof of publication?
Mr. Chief Executive, there is, it does appear to be an order.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. And I would ask for Carrie Coe, if she's available, to give us a report and explain the proposal.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher and esteemed commissioners. My name is Carrie Coe. I'm the program director at the historic Clark Chateau, and I'm here to announce that we received some unanticipated revenue through a SARTA grant in the amount of $5,000, which we plan to use to offset for the cost of replacing the historic back door on the Clark Chateau. It's a 2¼ inch solid wood door that's going to be custom built, and we've bids and contracted that door construction out. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Carrie, and Ms. Coe, and I look for any questions that commissioners may have for Ms. Coe. Seeing none, I will open a public hearing. And then I would ask for proponents to come forward first. Please, when you come forward as a proponent, state your name, your address for the record, and then you can give us your statement. So this is the first call for proponents.
Mr. Chief Executive, we do have a phone call. I don't know if there's any, I'm not sure if the phone call might have something to do with this public hearing. There's no way of telling unless I find out who it is, I guess.
Should we go to the phone and see if it is addressed to this?
Okay, thank you. Just one moment, please. We'll see if they're still on the line. Thank you for calling. Please give us your name and address for the record.
Demetrius Fassis, 521 North Excelsior.
Demetrius, is this regarding the public hearing on the court check?
No, I'm not. I'm calling in support of resolution number 2021-03.
Would you mind very much, Demetrius, just hanging on for 2 more minutes and we'll do that right after.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
All right, so this is unrelated to our public hearing. We have our first call for proponents. I'll move it to the second call for proponents. Not seeing anyone, not have anyone on the phone, we will call for a third and final call for proponents. All right, we will close that out, and now we will call for any opponents. First call for opponents of this public hearing. We'll call a second call for opponents. Call for a third and final call for opponents. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. If you'll indulge me, I think we'll just allow this one call. We did miss this call. He called.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Demetrius, go ahead. You can give your comment.
Thank you, Madam Shaw, Chief Executive, and Council Commissioners. Thank you very much. I'm calling in support of resolution number 2021-03. This resolution would effectively repeal resolution 2015-45, which allowed for the initial creation of a local advisory council as a 23-member board. I guess I can read the resolution text. Resolution 2021-03 is a resolution establishing the Butte-Silver Behavioral Health Local Advisory Council to replace the previously established Mental Health Local Advisory Council, thereby repealing Council Resolution 15-45 and providing for an effective date herein. The advisory council that was created by 15-45 was deemed untenable due to its size as a 23-member board by several of the former members, including Health Officer Karen Sullivan, who I'd love to give a tremendous thanks to for her time and attention on this matter during what's certainly been a trying time for public health. The changes that we have made with this current resolution are really modifications to language throughout, to state behavioral health is the focus, not just mental health, but mental health and substance use disorder, and also to reduce the number of members for that local advisory council from not more than 23 to not more than 15, in hopes of having a more effective council. So I wanted to call in support, and I very much appreciate you all's time and attention on this matter.
Thank you. Chief Executive Gallagher, you can continue now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We close out the bid. I'm sorry, public hearing, and we'll move on to section 2 consent agenda. And we'll go section A 1 through 4, section B 1 through 35. Do we have any friendly amendments or segregations? Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I would like to segregate communication number 5, 2120-20. I'd also like to segregate number 23, 20-2021 39. Thank you.
Okay. Any other segregations? Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'd like to segregate item number 3, 2021-18.
Okay. Any other segregations? No. Commissioner O'Neill, that's a thumbs up and not, you don't want to segregate anything?
Oh, thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Commissioner Shaw or Madam Shaw and Mr. Fisher stole mine, so thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on, we will, do I believe I go to Commissioner Shaw?
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. You're doing a great job. I would move to approve section 2 consent agenda items A 1 through 4 and B 1 through 35, with the exceptions of item 3, 2021-18, number 5, 2021-20, and number 23, 2021-39.
Second.
The consent agenda has been moved and seconded. Is anything on the question? Commissioners, please vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? And clerk, would you please record the vote?
Yeah, we're missing a vote here. I'm just trying to see which one.
It looks like Commissioner Thatcher has her finger up.
Oh, okay. That's a yay. 12 yay, 0 nay. Thank you, Hattie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. We so motion passes. We will go to segregation. We will go to communication, section B, number 3. I apologize. I do not have that in front of me. I seem to have misplaced that communication. Could you read it for me, Commissioner Shaw?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Communication number 2021-18. And do you want to read the caption? JP?
I don't have it in front of
That's
me
okay.
right now. I've misplaced it. under
We're
my
good.
Pound of papers
Okay,
here.
I'll be gladly do so. Ed Banderob, 2601 Grand Avenue, requesting Council of Commissioners to do whatever is necessary to implement under the powers and duties of the Council of Commissioners of the Butte-Silver City County Charter, Clause 3.01, Sub C, to employ an attorney for the purposes which the Council of Commissioners deems necessary to represent the interests of the citizens of Butte-Silver. The reason I segregated this, we have a charter, it's our Bible, or you want to call it our, it's our instruction booklet on how the government runs in our city county government. And this is one of the items under our powers and duties of the council. I asked Eileen, County Attorney Joyce, if she would please speak on this. I know Mr. Banderob is probably on the phone, or he was going to call in. I was going to call on him. But I felt this is an opportunity to, number one, answer hopefully Mr. Banderob's questions. I was originally noting this and placing it on file, but also since the charter is so instrumental in our Council of Commissioners, what we do, I was going to ask County Attorney Joyce to please explain what that line item means and how it works into our duties and powers. So I don't see a call coming in so far. Maybe Ed will be calling in here shortly, but in the meantime, I would ask if County Attorney Joyce would speak on this, please. Thank you.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Shaw. So as noted in Mr. Banderob's letter, the charter does provide that the county attorney is supposed to be the chief legal counsel of the local government. And the council is part of the local government as one of the branches of the local government. And the charter provision that he is citing under the duties of the Council of Commissioners, it authorizes the council to employ an attorney for purposes that the council deems necessary. And so the council already has that ability. It has utilized that authority in the past, and it always has the ability to utilize it in the future if needed. There have been times in the past where we need to use an outside counsel because it may be a matter that is beyond the capacity of the county attorney's office. For example, we signed a memorandum of coverage with the Montana Municipal Interlocal Authority to represent the city county whenever we're sued. There are some exclusions to that coverage, and in the past when we haven't had coverage for a certain claim, we have asked the council to hire an outside attorney because being involved in a litigation that requires a lot of discovery and depositions and things like that is beyond what our office usually can handle. And a lot of times it's an area that we may not have the appropriate expertise in. There's also sometimes labor law issues, employment issues that we ask the council to, hire an outside attorney to help us handle. In the past, I think just recently, Commissioner Fisher asked for the council to employ outside attorney to look at the consent decree. So I don't know what Mr. Banderob is requesting in terms of doing whatever is necessary to employ that or utilize that particular power, because the council has the ability to determine when they think an outside attorney is necessary for the purposes that they deem appropriate. So it's within the purview of the council whenever they think there's a matter that requires them to employ an attorney, then any member of the council could bring it before this body and you could all decide whether that's an appropriate expenditure. Obviously, it does become a budgetary issue also at some point, but it's in the charter. It's been utilized before. I don't think there's any specific action that needs to be taken to allow the council to go forward with that particular authorization, just on a case-by-case basis, or when there's something that comes up that the council thinks they needed to employ an outside attorney, they have the ability to do so.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Bill, Ed Vanderab, excuse me. He was going to call in, and if he is listening, the number here is 497-5009. And one of the things I think that came up in my discussion with Ed before this meeting was we do have a budgetary authority. I believe we have a line item in our budget. Maybe you could explain that too, Eileen, if you don't mind. Excuse me, County Attorney Joyce.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw, Mr. Chief Executive. I believe that the council has a professional services line item that you can utilize for that purpose if there wasn't enough money in that line item. And there was an unanticipated expenditure that would require you to expend more money than is in that professional service line item. You would likely have to maybe go through the unanticipated expenditure resolution process. But there is a process set up for you to be able to either use what's in your professional services or have the public hearing and pass a resolution if you needed to put more money in there in order to employ an attorney.
Thank you. I don't know if anybody else has any questions for Eileen on this subject.
Commissioner Fisher has his hand up.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. I read this, and as County Attorney Joyce stated, during the consent decree, I did put in a communication to hire outside counsel to review the consent decree. The council voted, and it was denied, and that is the process and procedure used. So, with all due respect to Mr. Vanderrob, I don't know where we're going with this if we don't have a specific reason to have an attorney. I mean, I can't see just putting one on retainer to have, on retainer. So if there's something a council member thought we should have an attorney review, they should do the process as I done with the consent decree and let the council voice their concerns by a vote. So I agree with the county attorney. I do agree with Commissioner Shaw. So point of clarification is that's the process if you think we need it, and it works very well. So if you think we need an attorney on any event, bring it up and we'll go from there. But to have one on retainer, I can't see where we have enough budget in the money in the budget to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Anyone else? Commissioner Sorge.
I guess I'm just kind of looking. Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive and fellow commissioners. Mr. Bandrop, I guess thinking that maybe we should be hiring a lawyer. I think it's a matter of his opinion versus our opinion. And I am the county attorney saying when we do need it. And like you say, we have done hired lawyers in the past for different reasons. So I guess I'd make the motion right now that to stick with the original motion to note and place on file.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to concur and place on file, and we have a second. Anything on the question? We have commissioners, please vote.
Just to clarify, the motion is to note and place on file, not concur.
Oh,
note.
Correct. Note and place on file. My mistake.
Thanks, Eileen.
Would anyone like to change their vote? And clerk, could we have you please record the vote?
We have 12 yay and 0 nay.
Motion passes.
Thanks, everyone.
Moving on to communication number 2020-20. Tom Davis Jr., Silver Bow Tavern Association requesting Council of Commissioners consider that the year's county licensing fee be waived, dramatically reduced, credited if already paid, or recommendations on other means to help mitigate the burden of our small business owners. This would be for all beverage license or beer and wine licenses, Silver Bow County retail food licenses, and catering special events licenses. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I don't dispute that we want to refer this to the committee of the whole, but what I would like to do is I would like to have maybe Budget Director Gleason, prior to the committee of the whole meeting, give us a little update, doesn't have to be tonight, about what fees and are paid by these people and what kind of a budget, this will affect it. I have talked to some tavern owners and restaurant owners, and I do understand their demise. I hear where they're coming from, but I've heard a lot of different things about they pay $400 a year for this and some pay $200 for this. So I think it's a little more complex than just maybe considering licensing fee be waived or reduced. So I do think we need a little research done on this, and I would ask that maybe Director Gleason give us a staff report prior to our refer to the committee of the whole next week, if that's possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive, and thank you, Commissioner Fisher, for that. I totally agree. So would you like to revise the recommendation to refer to the Finance and Budget Department and hold it in the committee of the whole? Just for clarification purposes.
I don't see JP. Hopefully you recognize me. So, Madam Commissioner Shaw.
Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Fisher, sorry. I was writing.
Commissioner Shaw, that would be a recommendation. I would make a motion to follow with the words you've stated, to refer this to the Budget and Finance Office and then refer to the Committee of the Whole. Thank you.
Okay, and I would second that motion.
Hey, we have a motion and a second to refer to Finance and Budget Committee and then refer to the Committee of the Whole for further review. Is that correct?
Budget and Finance Department.
Budget and Finance Department, Director Gleason to give a report and refer it back to the Committee of the Whole. Anything on the question? Seeing none, can we have commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? And clerk, can we have you please record the vote?
We have 12 yea and 0 nay.
Motion passes. Moving on to item number 23. If I can get to it here. Communication number 2021-39, Jim Keenan, Chief Water Operator, requesting Council Commissioners concurrence and authorization for the Chief Executive to sign 4 agreements for chemical for water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, and Ridge Waters, Public Works open bids on December 30th, 2020, and these were the lowest bids. Commissioner Fisher.
Once again, thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Even before, the reason I segregated this, prior to even Mr. Perkins calling in at the beginning of the meeting, I'd planned on segregating this to maybe give Mr. Keenan an opportunity, or someone with the Public Works, an opportunity to respond. I think everyone's seen the email that we got from the Thatcher Company a week or 10 days ago. Maybe, well, it was after that probably, but I don't know what happened here, whether it was an error on the Thatcher Company's part or what happened here, but the $25,000 is a savings for Butte-Silver Bow. And in the letter we received, they did state that they had been providing these chemicals to Butte-Silver Bow for some time. And I do understand that the bid process is the way it goes, and if you don't get in, you're out. But I just think a response to Mr. Perkins or whoever's with Thatcher Company deserves an answer from somebody, and I would hope to have that at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. I do believe we have Public Works Director Mark Neary on the line, and maybe he could respond to that a little bit.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. For the record, I'm Mark Neary, Public Works Director, and Commissioner Fisher, you're right. They do, with the letters that have gone out, they put a lot of questions in the air, but that's what happened is the Thatcher Company, they've been supplying chemicals because they were awarded the bids on the bid process that they have won before. When he said that he gave prices, they actually wanted to just extend the contract that we had from before, but we can't do that. We have to go out for bid. But all of the proper bid procedures, advertisements were all done. You know, we followed the rules on all of it. Just Thatcher's missed. They didn't see the advertisement for it. I mean, the other three of the others, one was from Minnesota, one was from Pennsylvania, and one was from Kansas. And they have people in their firms that are looking in the legals for these bids. So it's unfortunate for Thatcher, but it's also unfortunate for us that they missed the bid because we have a great relationship with them, but we can't bend the rules for just one company or any company.
Thank you, Director Neary. I believe we have Commissioner Anderson had his hand up first.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. My question is, I know we can't do it now because it wasn't part of the bid, but the next time we do have a bid and we're dealing with a local contractor like that who can't supply all these chemicals, I know with the garbage pickup, for example, we have a multi-year contract with them and that we extended it this past fall for another few years. Is that something we could talk to Thatcher about and say, hey, we're going to do it this way next time in a year from now, so be on the lookout for it, and if you're the low man, we can possibly extend you. Is that something that we can legally do?
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. I would refer back to Director Neary, and maybe he could answer that question for us.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I know in the past we've had contracts that went for more than 1 year. I think the last time it was a 2-year contract, but it is so everybody can, it's a fair bid and a fair bid process, and that's the reason that we did it.
Thank you, Director Neary. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Thank you, Director Neary. I guess a couple questions I have is those bids were spread out amongst quite a few different chemicals, and it was quite a complex bid process. And as I look through my notes, we were going to get a report back prior to awarding that bid, and I don't think we ever got that. I guess my two questions are that I know the legal ramifications of not awarding the bid to the low bidder, but in any way, it's a two-part question. In any way, did Thatcher submit amounts of money that may have influenced someone else's bid? And the other thing is, if any of the bids were less than $80,000, they do not have to be bid out. So I kind of got a couple questions in this bid process. As I look through my notes from December 30th, I see that we had some questions there. So I don't want to keep kicking this horse around. I don't want to kick the can down the road, but I just want to make sure that, we've got our bases covered, because who's ever awarded the bid, don't get it. They're going to have a little bit of a discrepancy. And if Thatcher feels they were jilted, they might have a little bit of a dispute. So I don't want to get the county attorney involved because she's got enough on her plate, but these are a couple of my concerns. Thank you.
JP, you're on mute.
Sorry, Director Neary has his hand up, so I'll let him respond to your question there.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Commissioner Fisher, I don't feel that Thatcher was wronged. I mean, they didn't have anybody watching the legals to do the bid. I get that. And the reason we went with 4 different bids is because one firm didn't put out all of the chemicals. That's why we ended up with 4.
Thanks, Commissioner, our Director Neri. Commissioner Fisher. Follow up.
Thank you once again, Chief Executive Gallagher. So I guess my question is, Director Neri, are all of these bids in excess of $80,000 for each component?
Director Neri.
I thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I think the total was over 80. That's why we had to go out for bid. So then they came in lower than 80, but we don't know that prior to going out to bid.
Thanks, Director Neri. And I'd like to respond a little bit. Commissioner Fisher, I don't think there's anything against or anything that prohibits us from having a bid opening for things that are under $80,000 as well. I think that that's our policy, that anything over 80,000 that we have it, but I don't think that there's anything that prohibits us from having a bid opening if it is under 80,000. But I would refer to the county attorney to see if I'm correct in that interpretation.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Fisher, I believe that the way that this was bid out is, as all one bid package, and firms could bid on all of the chemicals that were requested or choose. But the state law does require in our local ordinance that if it is over $80,000, you are required to solicit a competitive bid. So that's the way we chose to do it. So the total amount for those bids as a package would have been over $80,000. And the Thatcher Group apparently, missed the bid. I do think that we would potentially have a bid contest, if we didn't award it to the lowest bidder. You are allowed, I think the bid documents indicated that we could reject all bids, but typically we only do that like if we didn't have enough budgetary authority to cover the bids that we received. And once the bids are opened, it throws off the balance of having a fair competitive bid process, because everybody then knows what the other bids were. So if you were to try to start over, it's not fair to the bidders that responded the first time, because then their bids were made public and everybody is already aware of what those bids are. So if we don't really have a valid budgetary reason for rejecting the bids, I think we should move forward. And it's unfortunate that it's going to cost the city county more money, but this company didn't respond to a legally advertised bid.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Any other discussion? Commissioner Fisher.
Once again, thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I do respect what's being said, but you got to remember and go back to the minutes of the December 30th meeting. We were going to have a discussion prior to this being let about these chemicals being sent out, and I don't think that was ever made. So I will be opposed to this going the way it is, because as I read it, everything's by the pound or by the yard or the dry ton. And I just don't know that this bid process is something that the voters of Butte-Silver Bow would want to spend an extra $25,000 to send out of state. So thank you for your input. I appreciate it, but I still don't agree, because $80,000 for one contract, and there's 4 different contracts here. So I have to dispute that. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Fisher. I believe that Commissioner O'Neill had his hand up.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. My comment to this, in the future, hopefully we can do what's best for, if we have a contract out for 2 years, hopefully we could give them a heads up in the future. And I mean, 25 grand, no matter, yeah, it's just it's a shot in the face, in my opinion, on however that came down. And I do have a question on how the Thatcher guy is questioning how his bid didn't get in. I mean, and if he didn't have a response to, I think he deserves a response of at least, hey, you just didn't get your bid in. And I'm not sure if he didn't, but I just got that from the email and tonight that he didn't give any comment back. So just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Neill. Any other discussion? County Attorney Joyce.
You're on mute, Eileen. I'm the watchdog.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Mr. Chief Executive, and just to answer Commissioner O'Neill, the Thatcher Company did have discussions with Mr. Keenan prior to this bid going out. He let him know that it was about to be advertised, and I don't know why they missed it, but they did not submit a bid.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Commissioner O'Neill, follow up.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher, and thank you, County Attorney, for that question back on that. Do we have to go out for bid on stuff like this? Can't we call around all over the country and make sure we're getting a good deal on this? If that's a dumb question, let it happen. But I mean, why do we need to get the best deal for chemicals with a pool? The bid process, I don't like it.
Commissioner O'Neill, thank you. I can respond a little bit to that. It's projected that it's going to be more than $80,000, in which it was throughout this bid process. We are required by state law to have a bid opening, sealed bid opening in front of council. And that's what this was projected. Although there was multiple chemicals in it, it was put together. There was communication, as we said, and I could refer back to Mr. Neri about this, but there was discussion with our chief operator, Jim Keenan, with this company prior to this. I hate to say it, but I think they just missed the opportunity and did not get their bid in time, and it does make for an unfair bidding process. I get that we look at the dollar figures on this, but I think it opens us up to things that we don't want to anyhow. But I'll refer this, ask Director Neri to comment on this as well.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. That's true. I mean, there was communication with Thatcher prior to going out for bid, and after the bids came in, Jim reached out to Thatcher and said, "Hey, what happened? Did you guys quit or whatever?" And he just didn't know it. Mr. Perkins works for the Thatcher. I think Mr. Perkins is probably on the hot seat because he missed this bid, and I think that's where all this and stuff. Which I get it, and I mean I agree. It's unfortunate that they didn't get the bid because we have to pay for it. So follow proper procedure, and it's unfortunate that this is how it turned out.
Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Director Neri, could you break down the amounts? I have them in front of me, but reading through these contracts this time difficult. What is the total amount of the 4 different bids, and what is each bid? Do you know offhand?
I have in front of me. Oh, sorry, Chief Executive.
Director Neri, thank you.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Commissioner Fisher, I have them in front of me too, but I'm not exactly sure how they were broke down. I got all the contracts. What we do is when we go through them, they just do a bid tab on them. And then this is where we came up with, each chemical came up with each different, who was awarded for the lowest price. But I don't have it broke down right here in front of me. I can figure it out, but.
Thanks, Director Neri. It looks like Commissioner Thatcher has a question.
Thanks, Chief Executive Gallagher. I have a question for County Attorney Joyce. And this, like Josh said, might be a dumb question. I'm just going to roll with it. But would the legal ramifications of, not accepting the lowest bid, would that outweigh the $25,000 that we will lose for going to somebody else?
County Attorney Joyce.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Thatcher. Obviously, the competitive bid laws are out there for the benefit of the public. It's not for the benefit of contractors. It's supposed to be for the benefit of the public so that you do get the best price. And you have, the ability to use public funds in the best way. But, and in this circumstance, it does go against, the public dollars. But at the same time, it was a legally advertised bid. People were made aware of what the deadlines were and the fact that it was required to go out for bid, given the total price for these chemicals. It would put the city county in legal jeopardy if we were to not award the bid to somebody that submitted the lowest bid. It's unfortunate that it's going to cost us money, but there is a obvious potential for somebody to challenge us if we were to not award it to the lowest bidders who responded in a timely manner and complied with all of the bid requirements.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Any other questions? It looks like Director Neri has his hand up. Director Neri.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Commissioner Fisher, on your question, I don't have a total because it's by the, like you said, by the gallon, by the dry ton. And then, most of them are by the dry ton, but I don't know exactly how much we use each year. But the Jim Keenan, and it's not only the treatment, Jim just kind of heads it up. It's also, we use the chemicals at the Metro treatment plant and at the pool. So according to I'm sure by the budget that we spend on this each year, it's over $80,000. But I don't have an exact tonnage that we pay 201. And I don't know that Mr. Perkins from Thatcher threw $25,000 out there. He didn't send us a form that showed, what his costs were. And it was after the bids were out too. So I'm really not sure.
Thanks, Director Neri. It looked like Commissioner Anderson had his hand up, and then Commissioner Shaw and Commissioner Fisher. So Commissioner Anderson first.
Thank you very much. I think all the questions on this have been answered, and I just wanted to make a motion on this to approve communication 2021-39, concur and place on file.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to concur and place on file. Anything on the question? Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I find here on my notes, Shannon Corporation from Pennsylvania bid 124,229.69. Neil S.I. from Massachusetts bid 39,480. Timmer Lawmarks Water Solutions bid 225,628. Hawkins from Minnesota bid 463,604.05. And DPC from Hudson, Colorado, their bid was rejected because they didn't have a bid bond. So what I'm stating here, and my notes state, we had 5 bids, we threw one out, but we had 10 chemicals bid in this process. And this is what my question come up, I got it written down here, that we would have a report how these were going to broke down before we bought these chemicals. Because if you add this all up, you're looking $1 million. If you add everything up. So I don't know how this is broke down or who got what, but if you take 125,000, 225,000, 463,000, and then one for 39,480, these are the notes I have in front of me, and I'm at a loss, and I need better information before I could approve a deal like this. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Fisher. Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any more discussion? Okay, could I have commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? And clerk, will you please record the vote?
Chief Executive Gallagher, it's not allowing me to vote. This is Commissioner Mankins.
Commissioner Mankins, do you want to give us a thumbs up or thumbs down? Okay.
Okay,
Ready
and
for
we have 10 yay and 2 nay.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Moving on to section 3, communications to be read and acted upon. Communication number 2021-21, Bill Markovich Construction requesting Council of Commissioners authorization for a 1-year extension of the Copper Fox subdivision, which will expire on January 13th, 2021. Copper Fox Estates Incorporated, Copper Fox, has completed the purchase of this preliminary plat along with the real property from the prior owners. Construction is slated to begin in spring of 2021. So on this, do we have Mr. Markovich on? Is that what we go to?
That's right.
Commissioner Shaw. So Mr. Markovich, are you available to comment? It looks like Mr. Markovich is, I see 4 different screens on there with him, so I'm unsure if he's able to have audio. Commissioner Thatcher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Could this be something that maybe if Mr. Markovich doesn't have audio, that he can call into that number to discuss this?
That would be okay for him to
I see his phone possibly coming
I'm
in.
on board now.
Okay.
Mr. Gallagher, sorry about that. I'm having some challenges down here. However, every vote comes up, I get a chance to vote, but I didn't vote.
Nice try, Bill.
All right, Mr. Markovich, the floor is yours.
The subdivision is 1 block north of Margaret Larry School. It is owned by 3 entities in Butte, Rick Hoffman, Les Thomas, and myself. I am the managing partner. We've gone through every hurdle, including one of the bigger hurdles, which was an easement to use Meadowlark Street by an entity from Missoula that ultimately cost the project 2 building sites and utilities to the ground to the north. It was kind of a heartburn. His stakes were on the south side of the asphalt, and he decided we weren't going to drive on the street. So that's been resolved. The land, the design, the engineering, the legal, and the accounting is 100% paid for and in place. Northwest Energy final number and contract is pending. It's virtually going to be here within 30 days. DEQ has approved, is in approval for the sewer line until the end of May to start construction for 2021, and the end of May on water line till the year 2022. The only ingredient we are not have in place, and we are presently negotiating on that, is the final finance package. That finance package is out to First Citizens Bank, Opportunity Bank, and Glacier Bank presently. Those negotiations are ongoing. We are hoping to break ground in April.
Thank you, Mr. Markovich. Do we have any discussion? Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Thank you, Mr. Markovich. This Copper Fox development's been in the works for a long time. As Mr. Markovich stated, there was quite a dispute over some partial part of the road that cost them a few facilities. But I fully support the request to have a one-year extension. It's a great project. It's out there off Meadowlark near the Margaret Lurie School, near the old A&S Metals. And you'll see a couple pieces of equipment sitting on that property. And I hope we can follow through with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Any other discussion? Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I saw Lori Casey come in and out. I didn't know if she had something that she wanted to add to the conversation.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Is Lori Casey available for comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Shaw. The Planning Department would support this extension. I would just advise the council that to the extent that you do approve an extension, it does need to be prepared in writing, dated, and signed by all members of the governing body, as well as the subdivider, Mr. Markovich.
Thank you, Director Casey. Any other discussion that we may have? Commissioner Mankins.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Mr. Markovich, what was the delay? Could you explain why you said there was a month delay on that?
There is no delay on I was talking about Northwest Energy. They are within the next month going to have our final number and contract prepared for us. The present ownership bought the old ownership out. We have been in control of the subdivision since August. We've been in control of it for less than 6 months.
Thank you, Mr. Markovich. Any other discussion? Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive, and thank you, Bill and Lori, for piping in on this. It's a great project. So at this time, I would like to move to concur with communication number 2021-21 and place this on file along with the fact that we all need to sign a document.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to concur and place on file. Noted that everyone must sign off on it. Is there anything on the question? We have, Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Chairman Shaw, will you be drafting the letter in accordance with Ms. Casey's desires?
Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Commissioner Fisher, I believe Lori, I'm not really positive of this, but I believe that document is being drafted for us to sign. And we might be having to do a DocuSign in order to get us all on there. So if I'm mistaken, somebody please say so. Otherwise, I believe that's the case. Thank you.
I'll ask Lori if she could answer that question. Director Casey.
Mr. Chief Executive, the document, this would be the second extension on this subdivision, and we will work with County Attorney Joyce to prepare that document and send it out for signature.
Thank you, Director Casey. Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Doesn't look like we have any more discussion, so could we have commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? And clerk, would you please record the vote?
We have 12 yay and 0 nay.
Motion passes. Moving on to next section, any public comment on any public matters not on the agenda?
Mr. Chief Executive, we have a suspension of the rules, section 4.
Oh, my fault. I
okay.
passed that out. Section 4, ordinance and resolution, suspension of the rules, final passage. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. You did great up to that point. You're almost there, though. Thank you. At this time, I move to suspend the rules for the purpose of passing Council Resolution 2021-03, by waiving subsection 7 of Rule 36 of the Rules and Order of Business of the Council of Commissioners, thereby having it considered for advanced passage without reference to the Judiciary Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move this on to advanced passage to the Judiciary Committee. Is there anything on the question?
Or just suspending the rules, JP?
Suspending the rules, okay.
Thank you.
So the first is suspending the rules, and then we moved, okay, to suspend the rules. Anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, would you please record the vote?
Twelve yea and 0 nay.
Okay, motion passes. Now we need a motion. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Resolution number 2021-03, a resolution establishing the Butte-Silver Behavioral Health Local Advisory Council to replace the previously established Mental Health Local Advisory Council, thereby repealing Council Resolution 15-45 and providing for an effective date herein.
Second.
No, hang on.
We
At
haven't
this
had the motion
time,
yet.
I'm sorry, hang on. I have to move to send it to final reading. So now at this time, I move to place Council Resolution 2021-03 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
Now I'll second.
The motion has been, we have a motion and it's been second to move to final reading and
Just move to final reading.
to move to final reading. Anything on the question? Sean, or Commissioner Frederickson, your hand's not up there, is it? Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, can we have commissioners please vote? Anyone like to change their vote? And clerk, could we please record the vote?
We have 12 yea and 0 nay.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Now we'll move on to any public comment, any public matter not on the agenda. You can please call in at 497-5009. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. We don't have any calls at the moment. I do have a couple of letters to read into the record. And if we do have calls, I'll get the heads up from Josh over here. Okay, to start with, we have, this is public comment on any matter not on the agenda from R. Edward Vanderrob, 2601 Grand Avenue. In that, the state of Montana, with a population of 1.0 million people, mostly because of politicization of a health issue, has had more people killed by the COVID-19 virus and more economic devastation than the entire county of Australia, with a population of over 24 million. If we cannot get our act together to manage a virus with a 1% mortality rate, what is going to happen when the next Spanish flu type virus with a 25% mortality rate or higher hits? It is not going to take another 100 years for the next lethal virus to hit. We have already had 3 in our lifetime: SARS, Ebola, and COVID-19. Local elected officials already have jurisdiction over what is included in local health emergency directives of local disaster preparedness plans. The state of Montana legislature is now considering several bills that may infringe on the rights of the counties in the state of Montana and hinder the ability of local health departments to effectively deal with future health emergencies. Therefore, I ask that this council consider standing up for the rights of the local people and support our local health department by composing and sending the appropriate communications to the appropriate persons and/or entities in the state of Montana government. And that is from R. Edward Vanderrob. The second letter I'm going to read into the record is from Eldon Beal. I don't have his address. Oh, here it is, 105 West Porphyry, Butte, Montana. Chief Executive Gallagher, Madam Chair Shaw, and Council of Commissioners. Still, even with a new owner of the property from the tax deed sale, the private as well as public nuisance still exist. This is something the City County of Butte-Silver should have done a long time ago using MCA 45-8-111. Public nuisance to remove and end the illegitimate activity still going on daily and nightly. When we as neighbors talk about the issue, the general consensus is nothing is being done. We have had Butte-Silver law enforcement ticket some of the vehicles, but it just keeps mutating into from bad to worse. The constant flow of people, junk vehicles parked on the street, broken down vehicles, unlicensed vehicles, and trailers. The lot next to the property, which is owned by Action Inc., as of this writing, is full of vehicles and junk, which is a constant eyesore. How do we as neighbors and taxpayers clean the area up with little to no support from Butte-Silver? Thank you. Eldon Beal, 315 South Dakota Street, Butte, 491-4355. And that concludes the letters to be read into the record, and I don't believe, oh, we do have a call, okay. Welcome to the council meeting. Would you please give your name and address for the record?
Yes, again, Jim Perkins with Thatcher Company, Missoula, Montana.
Mr. Perkins, thank you for calling. You can give us your comment.
Yes, thank you again to all the commissioners for their time tonight. I did want to respond to a few of the comments made earlier. I've been following along with the meeting all night. And there were two things. First thing, the values, the dollar values for the water treatment chemical bid were submitted before the bid was even let. And those numbers did not change. So those numbers, even though they were known by the competition, because they would have been on the original bid tabulation, the other competitors did not come in at a lower price than what we offered to extend. So there was fair competition, and nothing was known by me ahead of time what others would bid. So that bid was a fair bid, and it was a lower bid than the competition. Number 2 point to Utility Director Neary, the email that I sent to you and Angie and Mr. Keenan had an attachment showing the chemical usage for 2020 for all your plants, all 3 water plants, the metro sewer, and the pool. And those values are actual values for 2020. And when you take the low bid on the bids that were submitted and Thatcher's numbers, that $25,000 is an actual number. Yeah, I didn't know if there was a dialogue.
Commissioner Shaw, I think you're on mute.
No, I'm not. I shouldn't be. Oh, there's my microphone. There you go.
Okay.
So you guys don't have a microphone. I do. I have 2. Chief Executive Gallagher. We're finished with our comment period.
Okay, thank you. So see no further comment. Just would like commissioners and public to refer to the calendar, other meetings and events. There's a listing of that on the agenda, and just refer to that if there's any that are of interest to you. And then with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there anything on the question? Can we have everyone just do a tally vote?
Yep, all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good job, JP.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Same to you.
Eileen and I will meet with you guys, especially and go through our procurement laws with them.